Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for Aries season. I hope you're well. I'm using the 777 tarot for you today. Here it is. Now, before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end via one of the links in the description box below. One of the links will take you to Selfie if you want just the extended. If you want all of the extended content for all of the signs, then you should come over to the Order of the Phoenix, which is my my private community on the Circle platform. You can get all of those videos. You can get weekly energy readings, which are all between 40 minutes and an hour long, depending on what's going on. You can get access to participation in the Decan walk that we're doing over there. We're currently in the second Decan of Aries, and there's another 34 to go. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you could do that. And if you join at the higher tier, you can come participate in the live classes that we run over there too. So I shall leave that with you, Taurus. Let's flip the camera around and see what's going on with you. Oh, just to explain, we're going to have a look at where you are right now, because I think of all the questions we could ask ourselves, that is the most important. Then we're going to have a look at what we are supposed to be embodying right now, and if there's any issues around that or where we lean more into it. And then finally, the second most important question we can ask ourselves, which is what is the next step? Then from the in the extended, if there's anything interesting that comes up here that needs a little bit of investigation, we'll look at that. Otherwise, it will be what else do you need to know around this situation. So let's have a look and see where Taurus is right now, please. Oh, we have the Queen of Swords. It's Libra energy. We have the Five of Swords, Aquarius, Two of Wands, and the Judgment card. Okay, right. Well, Taurus, I think you've got some decisions to make, and make them soon, I think, the way that's showing up there. Let's have a look and see what embodiment is looking like for Taurus, please. We've got the Queen of Cups on her side. Taurus. Whoa. We've got the Ten of Cups. And we've got the Six of Swords in reverse. So perhaps a decision that you've already made that might need revisiting, actually. There's one way of looking at it. What is the next step for Taurus, please? There we go. We have the Three of Pentacles. We have the Knight of Cups. And one more, please. We have the Seven of Swords in reverse, which is interesting because it is matched with the Ace of Swords in the upright here. So themes of truth showing up pretty strongly here, Taurus, and making sure that we are dealing with the truth, because I think there are issues around that. Now, I'm not saying that you're lying to yourself here, there and everywhere, but notice that we've got Five of Swords, Six of Swords, Seven of Swords. We've got the Ace of Swords at the bottom of the deck. We've got the Queen of Swords here. Queen of Swords is very, very good at problem solving. But more than that, she's very good at helping us work out what we're thinking, and how to, how to best navigate through that. I don't want to go to here first. I want to start up here, obviously. I want to say when the Ace of Swords comes up, it's not just in terms of the truth, TM, capital T or whatever. It is often about epiphanies, it's about realizations. Sometimes it's about seeing the world differently, right, off the back of something. And the Queen of Swords and the Ace of Swords work very, very well together to get to the bottom of things, to try and work out what the truth of any given situation is. And I think that that's really, really important, because the Five of Swords is here too. And the Five of Swords has a very different kind of quality to it in terms of what it represents, right? So certainly in this card, and it's quite interesting, this one here. Sometimes when you're reading cards, it can be quite interesting to see where the representations of the elements fall, if it's in more than, I don't know, like three. Because usually we've got a guy holding three swords, and there's two swords on the floor in the Waite-Smith version of this deck. And so, we could make some sort of interpretation looking at that and using that. But here we've got something else going on. We've got this guy with 2 swords. With actually quite a deeply unpleasant look on his face, right? And he's holding them in a position that is somewhat reminiscent of the 2 of Swords, the woman in the 2 of Swords. It's like there's a blocking of something going on here. And rather than the other swords being sort of, him having another sword in his hand and some being on the floor or whatever, we notice that the guys behind him have also got the swords. And there's... where is the other one? I think it's in his... it's here. It's in his scabbard, so he actually does have 3. But 2 of them are being displayed. Or is that just... no, that's just a scabbard. Huh. I have to have a real dig around in that card to see what's going on, right? But we don't usually see a unified force. It's not usually what that card represents. Right? We can talk about it in all sorts of ways. Pyrrhic victory. You have won, but at what cost? You got your way, but at what cost? The 2 guys in the back of the card are usually depicted as turning away from the situation, right? And depending on whether you're the guy in the foreground or one of the 2 guys in the background, it's like you're either the issue here, or you have decided something's gone far enough and you just can't participate in this, and you lose more by continuing to fight than you do just putting the swords down and walking away. So we don't usually get this unified presentation, which really leans into the fixedness of Aquarian energy for me. This 5 of Swords feeling like a very fixed way of thinking about things, which is interesting because it's a 5, so it's quite chaotic. And I've also sometimes described this card as kind of like wonky thought patterns, where we're absolutely convinced that we're right and we follow that to the exclusion of everything else, and then later down the line we're like, oh god, right, that's the thing. So I feel like, because we've got the Ace of Swords here and we've got the Queen of Swords here, that we've got a kind of fixed mindset about something that we need to make a decision about fairly soon. Now, if this is indeed reminiscent of the woman in the 2 of Swords, then there are a couple of observations that we can make. The first is potentially that we don't have all the information yet. We don't know what we don't know. There are things that maybe need to be revealed. But it also could be there's more than enough information around for you to change your position. You're just choosing not to see it right now. Do you see what I mean? Because I don't understand why there would be these 2 cards of some sort of decision-making process being implied here if you had all the information and you thought it through cleanly and everything was cool. Even then, to some extent, the presentation of the Queen of Swords and the Ace of Swords wouldn't need to be here either. We wouldn't need to think on something more. We wouldn't need a revelation of something new or a different way to see the world. It's just like, I've worked this all out, it's fine, right? There's a fixedness here that is being challenged. And with the 2 of Wands, this idea of arriving at a crossroads where a decision must be made. And then this higher vibration of that energy, because it's not only 20, it's 20 under Major Arcana card, so it's taken up to the nth level, because it has some kind of significant effect on something in your life here. It's like comes in, but then the implications of it are considerably bigger. That's too, it can, yeah, Tower reversed. I'm not surprised to see that card at all. It's come out for other fixed signs too. Because what this suggests to me is that the energy that you're in at the moment is sticking with a fixed way of looking at something, looking at something with a fixed perspective. Because if you allowed any more information in, it would catapult you into this 2 of Wands and this judgment energy and the Tower that comes with it, which is what I feel you're trying really hard to avoid right now. It's like, I don't want everything to crumble down, and it will if I give way at all anywhere on any aspect of my perspective about this. Do you see what I mean, Taurus? There's the Two of Swords, confirming what I was feeling. Whoa, what the fuck? There are 2 towers in this deck. Oh, good lord, I didn't even know that. Now, that's not too... There are some decks like this. The Triple Goddess has 2 Fools in it, right? I had one deck, I forget what it was off the top of my head, that had 5 Death cards in it. And again, I didn't notice until they all came out in one reading once, right? Okay, but this is really important because this is really doubling down on the message, Taurus, right? Whatever tower you are trying to evade by not looking at something directly is actually to some extent going to be the thing that brings the tower in. Now, the tower is a good card. Oh, there you are. Look, there's the Empress underneath there. The tower is a good card. Long term, it is a good card. The experience of the tower falling down rarely is experienced quite in the same way. It's a sudden, shocking energy that comes in to change our direction. And there's a little bit of thinking in the, at the back of this, that the tower itself is an energy of last resort that comes in when we have refused to see something or we've refused to act on something. And the universe steps in to go, well, whether you like it or not, you need shaking free of this, and this is the way you need to go. So I'm going to come in and kick it all over. The more it is resisted, the stronger it is, right? What you resist persists, and all that sort of thing. I can't believe that. I can believe it because this is what we do, right? But this Two of Swords here really does feel like it's confirming that maybe you have not been thinking straight about something, Taurus, and there are consequences to that, and there are implications that I think it would be remiss of you to ignore. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, maybe if you do have something big ahead of you that you've planned, that you've been working towards, that or just a kind of sense of normality that you're looking to perpetuate moving forward. So maybe now is the time to go back and examine all the base principles upon which this stand, because something has got a crack in it. Something, there's a brick missing from the foundation somewhere, and it seems to be affecting the overall stability of the structure. Decisions that are made in pursuit of an avoided tower moment, right? To avoid a tower moment, usually inexorably bring in the tower. That is my experience, my personal experience, and I would advocate before the tower hits, just going and checking, right? Amending something, choosing to do something different, because this skipped step that is in here somewhere where we've not seen something, it gets illuminated very, very quickly when the tower comes in. So, in terms of the principles that we are supposed to be embodying right now, well, we have the Ten of Cups here, which is both a blessing and a curse, depending on how you deal with it, right? Around the idea of the collective, whether the collective is your family, or whether it's your friendship group, or whether it's, people at work, whatever. Like there's a kind of harmonious aspect here in the Ten of Cups that we love, right? It's something emotionally nourishing about what this is. The sting in the tail with the Ten of Cups is always the fact that it represents an end, right? There's a transition here that is not necessarily being honoured when it's trying to change, and we're resisting it. We're trying to keep it as it is. The Six of Swords recommends a revisiting of something around that, right? And maybe the revisiting is some sort of like some sort of emotional consideration of the idea of security and stability from an emotional perspective, and the people that provide that for you. Remember, I've said many times, really, to have a proper 10 of Cups situation, you have to have everybody showing up in a 9 of Cups sense. And if that's, you know, your family situation and you have people of many different ages within that, there's a certain passing on of wisdom that needs to happen, but an honouring the change. Now, this Queen of Cups on a side feels like this is possibly a point of resistance. Like there's an emotional connection here. There's an emotional need here going on that is not being fulfilled. There isn't the maturation that we like to talk about. There's a resistance, and we've got to revisit the resistance. Why is the resistance here? And how can we move through that? Tell me about the Queen of Cups on her side, please. Why is she here for Taurus? The Four of Wands. I love Slavic illustrations. They're always so fucking dark, man. You know what I mean? 10 of Pentacles. There is an emotional yearning here for something, Taurus. And it's something like stability, but it's maybe even for some of you it's a question of legacy, actually, because we can see that in the 10 of Pentacles too. But what this is suggesting is that there's a level of emotional investment in what you are trying to build that feels inappropriate, not because you're putting it in there, but sort of where it's coming from. There's an unresolved factor here. Do we have at the bottom of the deck? We've got the Four of Cups. This is just adding more grist to the mill, if you will. Now, in times such as these, I mean, you know, I'm not going to criticise anybody for looking for any kind of security and stability where they can find it, right? Shit's chaotic right now. And there's no indication that you can't have it. I want to be very, very clear about that. But there are ways to do things and there are ways to not do things. And part of the positive ways to do things are making sure that we're coming from the right place. Emotionally, I feel like there is something really sticky here. And maybe it might be part of what's being ignored, right? And maybe that's why there's some resistance around changing or amending or making some sort of decision about this. But as we've seen with the Tower in the upright, that doesn't make it go away. So the embodiment that we're looking for here is someone who can recognize their own operating Four of Cups. And instead of pretending that they can't see it, puts it the right way up and goes, okay, I see what I'm trying to do here. And I see where I'm coming from with it. And I can see why this is causing resistances to the changes that need to happen here. It needs to be revisited. This is a strong position, but it does feel really confrontational, right? And that's telling us how closely emotionally enmeshed we are with whatever we're planning, whatever our structure is, whatever, you know, we have perceived as stability. I feel like there's been a move to try and sidestep the chaos and then put some blinkers on and pretend it's not happening. Now, whilst we've kind of got to hold lightly the chaos of the moment and go, right, we understand why it's happening or not, or whatever. We can't pretend it's not there, because this shift in human consciousness that everybody is going through right now is the to a huge extent, there's a tolerance of ambiguity that is being asked of us right now. And what I'm seeing here with this very fixed mindset is a spectacularly reduced tolerance for ambiguity. It's like everything that's going on out there can go on. I'm looking forward at that thing and that thing alone, and I'm just going to keep walking towards that. This would be why you wouldn't see the tower coming in. This is what I'm saying, Taurus, right? So the next step in the first instance is to recognize that there is a benefit, it seems, to more than just you in looking at this. Three of Pentacles is here. It's a card of teamwork, cooperation, collaboration. Where this seems to have been internally experienced, we have got a collective here with that Ten of Cups, and really we need to work with them to know what is possible, right? There are adjustments, amendments, something that needs to happen to properly facilitate that. And maybe this is where you really lean into what you're good at, Taurus, which is working with people. It's just the rigidity here is very personal. With that Knight of Cups there, it's kind of recognizing that this is one of those situations that is better addressed up front and done. What's the word that I recognize that there are other people affected, and recognize that they may have something to contribute. And as uncomfortable as it is for you, it's like something that is navigated collaboratively rather than held up personally gets this a lot further forwards than the rigidity you're experiencing right now, right? So the Seven of Swords then also makes an awful lot of sense, because the Seven of Swords, tricky card as it can be sometimes, when it shows up in the reverse like that, rather than the ambiguity around motive and is this a good card, is this a bad card, is this negative, is this deceit, deception, all that kind of thing, or is it strategy and whatnot, what we've actually got here is somebody who is clear. Right? They're clear about leaving their comfort zone. They're clear that the information that they have needs some work, needs working with, right? And they're being really honest with themselves more than anything else. And we'll bring you back to this Ace of Swords, bring you back to the Queen of Swords. There is something kind of strategic about this, but if we look at it from the strategy point of view, if you wait, I don't feel like you have the opportunity to be strategic, because the tower will come in and the tower will knock everything down. If you make this a collaborative process where you're involving other people, there's an appreciation of that, but there also is an opportunity to move tactically that will not be available to you later on. To some extent, accept what you're currently not accepting and refusing to look at right now. Like, if you get other people involved in this, then they could have some really good ideas. They've got ways in which things can be amended, adjusted. We're really moving into some chaotic energy, Taurus. And whilst you have weathered really well up until this point, which is to say, you've had a gold star and you've gone to the top of the class because you've really been quite adroit with your energies, investing your energies and whatnot. There's a pivot here. And for whatever reason, you ain't interested in the pivot. And I don't even notice, I'm not even sure if you've noticed your own rigidity on that. It is an emotional blind spot. And we can bring it out into your field of vision. If you go back and check those assumptions, check what you've... or check what it is that you don't really want to think about. Sometimes it's a really useful exercise to just consider the worst case scenario of something. Not sit there and dwell, all that kind of thing, but just be, just give yourself a moment to think on what that would be, what that could be. If you want to be able to cover all bases, then looking at the worst case scenario and going, okay, well, if this were to happen, what would I do? We're already starting to turn this into something that isn't it isn't based on simply luck or skimming through something by the skin of your teeth. This is something then that becomes more solid. The funny thing is, I think that you've been hanging off making this decision, and I think you know why you've been hanging off making it. And I think that that you're emotionally invested in it too. I actually think you would have no problem admitting any of those things, but that Four of Cups makes this much deeper than you're letting on. There's a lot more riding on it than you're letting on. Almost to the point that you're it's like it's real blinkers, Taurus. It's real blinkers. This is like the equivalent of sticking your fingers in your ears and going la 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 la, I can't hear you. I think it needs addressing, So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to go over to the extended. We're going to dig around in this a little bit more, see if we can get some more details around this specifically. I'm comfortable that I understand why this rigidity is showing up, right? It's an expression of your emotional stuff, right? And that's affecting the way that you think about that. So maybe we might dig into the emotional stuff a little bit too. But this is important. So we'll look at that. It's kind of this whole thing of extricating self-worth from something. Is you've put your self-worth into something and it needs hauling back out again, because actually it doesn't need to be in there, It's really interesting, so we might explore that a little bit more in the extended as well. So know that I love you all very, very much. Regardless of what you do and what you don't do, I still love you all regardless too, so just remember that. Take care, and I'll see you soon.